Is Classic WoW worth it? Yeah, it's a pretty good game. Hello guys and welcome to my new video, and today we'll be talking about Classic World of Warcraft and my perception of Classic World of Warcraft, whether it's worth playing, how it differs with the BfA in terms of many different aspects, in terms of character progression, in terms of social interaction, in terms of community, in terms of class abilities or class rotation, in terms of raids. So basically I'm going to be giving my opinions towards how Classic is good, how Classic might fall short in certain aspects, and how it compares to BfA, because I know a lot of people are coming from BfA into Classic. I know a lot of people have been waiting a long time before switching over to Classic because of the server queues, and they're waiting a month or until the server queues get smaller. So this is my opinion of what Classic World of Warcraft is about. So first of all, let's talk about the good stuff about Classic. And honestly, if you're going to play Classic World of Warcraft, set yourself some time. It is highly addictive. As I'm making this video right now, I wish I was playing Classic World of Warcraft. I wish I wasn't doing this video. I wish I was leveling. I wish I was doing dungeons. I wish I was progressing my character instead of uploading this. This is how addictive Classic World of Warcraft can be. And if you have a job and things like that, honestly, yesterday I went to bed and I was dreaming about Nomargan run that I had before, about the loot that I got, about how I'm going to optimize it, how I'm going to get new talents. So you need to be aware of the fact that it's going to be a huge time sink. The time investment into this game is absolutely insane. It can ruin relationship with your family, with your wife or husband, with your kids. You might lose a job. You might not have shower for multiple weeks. You might have a piss bucket or a shit bucket. Like, it will open up different aspects of your personality that you thought never existed. And it could be bad and it could be good. So keep this in mind. This is a disclaimer before starting Classic World of Warcraft. Second of all, the best parts about Classic when compared to BfA, and there's a lot. Character progression and leveling. Classic has got this down. It's so much better than BfA. It is so much better than BfA. I think I've never been this excited over getting a green item when compared to BfA, when I got like the mount from Mythic Jaina, or certain upgrades from BfA. I've never been this excited in Classic when I got this crappy green item, because everything is so much harder. Mobs hit harder, leveling is hard, character progression is hard. It's just the sense of accomplishment is so much better. And that's my honest opinion. First of all, getting 1 point every time you level and putting into your talent point system. I know it's minuscule upgrades, like you get 1% mana, 1% strength or whatever, like it's tiny, but it still feels good. Every level you still get this, a bit of character progression happening. You can go back to your class trainer and spend your gold on upgrading the spells that you really need. So you always have to grind, but you always feel this sense of achievement with every level. You're like, okay, I'm gonna put a point in here, and then in a couple of points I'm gonna get this spell, or then like, oh, I'm gonna save up gold so I can buy this amazing ability because it's gonna be so good. The progression is just spot on. I think it's the best thing about Classic World of Warcraft. The leveling, the character progression. You don't have War Forging, you don't have Titan Forging, you don't have sockets, you don't have Leech. You have a biz list, you do a dungeon, you're like, I need this two-hand weapon because it's the best for like the next 5 levels. I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna try and farm it. That's it. In BfA, you have to do the same dungeon over and over again, and once you get an item, you get disappointed because there's no War Forging, there's no sockets, there's no Titan Forging. It's a hamster wheel that keeps you spinning and spinning and spinning, because in the next 2 months, in BfA, there's going to be a new patch, and all of the gear that you got that's it. It's not relevant. Everything's gonna go up by 15 item points, and all the effort you put in doing all these dungeons, all the Titan Forging that you got is irrelevant. Like I said, BfA is a hamster wheel. You have to keep on going, keep on spinning, and I can see why Blizzard is doing that, because They want the player engagement to be high. They want players to constantly do content. They want players to constantly get upgrades in BfA. And I feel that's completely backfired. It made the game a joke in terms of character progression. In my honest opinion, MMO games should be, majority of the fun aspect should be around loot and character progression, and BfA does not have that. And Classic nailed it with everything that they have. I've never been so excited to get loot in Classic World of Warcraft. I've never been so excited to progress, to level up. It's insanely rewarding. Now let's talk about other aspects, things like community and social aspect. Now people might view this in different ways. The social aspect in Classic is insane. Insane in terms of talking to people. I've never, like the first day that I played Classic World of Warcraft, I've had to talk to more people than I've talked in BfA for like a year. Because BfA is just a different type of game. It's a type of game where you log in, you have a looking for group tool, you look for group, you join that group, you go through a dungeon without saying any word or anything to anybody, you finish the dungeon and you leave the group. It's almost like playing with bots. Now, this is not necessarily a bad thing. Some people might not want the social aspect. I mean, MMO is all about that social aspect, but some people might not want to rely on others. Classic is all about relying on others. World quests or quests in general are really hard. You need to group up and you need to work together. You basically need to work together for the best experience in Classic World of Warcraft. You need to have friends. You don't really need to have friends in BfA. You can have a good solo experience without having to rely on anyone else. So that's, a lot of people consider that social aspect in Classic, like, you know, everyone wants to have friends or everyone wants to work together. It's not necessarily always a thing. Like sometimes I want to just solo something and not have to rely on others. But if you're a type of person that wants to work together, that wants to talk to people, Classic is definitely for you because it doesn't have the looking for group tool, or at least the add-on. I'm not sure if it works. Just initially to find a group, you will have to say something to somebody. Once you get invited, the conversation is going to keep flowing. That's the general experience that I've seen. In BfA, you don't have to say anything to anybody. You join it, you finish the dungeon, and you leave and you go on your way. So, depending which one you prefer, I definitely like the social interaction in Classic, but I feel the Classic experience is heavily diminished if you don't have friends. If you don't have friends, I don't know, Classic is going to be really boring in my opinion. So, or maybe you can try and make friends along the way, because there's quite a few moments where I could make some friends. You know, Classic is definitely opening doors for that. Now let's talk about some of the aspects where I feel Classic falls down to maybe Legion and BfA to some extent. And that is, in my opinion, class rotation and gameplay. Now, don't get me wrong. There is a really good aspect to Classic in terms of each of the classes. So I'm playing my Paladin, and Paladins just get a ton of these different situational spells like Divine Intervention. It's just insane how many situational spells you have. You have more abilities than BfA, definitely. But the base rotation, the base, you know, spells that you use on a daily basis, on doing a dungeon, on doing quests or whatever, that rotation is pretty simple, very, very simplistic, and it only usually involves like a couple of buttons. Now, some people will like a simple rotation, like a lot of people have been talking about, like, you know, Frost Mages just casting Frostbolt, Warlocks just casting Shadowbolt, and that's it. A lot of people have been talking about it's like in a negative way. Some people enjoy that aspect. It's all basically what you want from the game. The rotations for classes is relatively simple, but the amount of abilities that you have, there's way more abilities to deal with. So I feel like there's good and bad. I feel BfA, or actually specifically Legion in general, Legion class rotation was a lot better in my opinion. Legion had really smooth, or the gameplay of classes was one of the best World of Warcraft has ever achieved. I think some people said Mr. Pandaria class rotations were pretty fun, but I never played Mr. Pandaria, so I don't know. But I feel Legion rotations were just they were so rewarding. You would press an ability A and then ability B becomes available or in some way synchronizes. So having this kind of chain combo happening all the time was really, really cool. In Classic, it's like press one button over and over again, or auto attack over and over again. But at the same time in Classic, you'll have a ton of abilities, situational abilities. So I feel like if BfA would revert the pruning, it would feel much better. And I feel BfA or retail is going into that direction where they're doing a level squish and they're adding more abilities to classes. So that might be interesting to check out. But again, classic rotation is somewhat simplistic. Whether you like it or not, it's up to you. It's up to you whether you like it or not. Another thing that I wanted to talk about is nostalgia. And this is going to be somewhat controversial. I feel nostalgia in classic is bad and good. It's a bit of both, because I feel it's really cool to relive your best gaming moments, like, you know, by doing stockades or doing dead mines, and like, you know, having this rush of like happiness happening because you remember the times. It's really cool. But at the same time, I feel the game is catering towards nostalgia too much. There's a lot of bugs that are in the game that are not going to be fixed because it was like that at the start. I mean, it's super weird for a new player coming into a game, any game, it doesn't have to be World of Warcraft, and then reading an article saying that, hey, we're not going to fix this bug because it was like that before. I mean, it's just ridiculous if you really think about it. There's no other game in the world who would not fix a bug because they want to recreate nostalgia. It is just super weird. I feel like, you know, there's like Stormwind fall through the floor bug. There is a bug with, if you're trying to invite party members, when you're in combat, the party frames just get completely messed up. And there's a lot of issues that could be fixed, I feel, but Blizzard is not going to be fixing them because they want to cater to nostalgia. I feel the game should stand on its own. I feel it shouldn't be built to some extent, don't get me wrong. Nostalgia is gonna bring in players, but I feel the game should stand by itself in terms of the mechanics, the social interaction, the class progression that it has. So I feel like if Blizzard wants to make changes to fix some of the bugs, add some improvements, like small improvements, I think they should do it and not be scared about offending people who just want to play the game for nostalgia. Because if you're playing a game just for the nostalgia alone, you're only gonna play for a couple of months. I want to play this game for a long term, and I want this game to stand on its own. And I'd love to hear your opinions about this. I really, really love to hear your opinions about this because it is somewhat controversial, because I feel anyone who makes some kind of a bad comments about Classic, they get lynched. They get like, people just attack them straight away because you can't say anything bad about Classic. Just be happy that they introduced it right now. Like, from a developer point of view, it's a jackpot. They release a game that's 15 years old. They don't have to fix any bugs. They don't have to do a lot of marketing. People just talk about it and things like that. But I feel like you can still add certain improvements. Equipment manager, things like that. I don't feel that's a groundbreaking addition to the game. And I'd love to hear your opinions on this again. So this was my overview of Classic, whether it's worth it. I definitely enjoyed this so much. I've been playing a lot of off-stream Classic because I'll just sit down beside my computer. I'll be like, okay, I'll just log in, do a couple of quests, and then I'll do a video. 5 hours later, I'm still playing the game. No stream started or anything like that. So it definitely immerses you in this experience. It's definitely worth it if you enjoy the character progression, social aspects. Playing Classic with friends is one of the best experiences in terms of gaming that I've ever seen. It is just insanely good. It falls down, in my opinion, in terms of certain class mechanics and maybe raid mechanics. If you're playing Classic just for the raids, I don't know if you're gonna be as fulfilled. If you're playing Classic for all the aspects, especially things like PvP, because PvP is probably the highest skill ceiling in Classic, and I feel a lot of top-end players will play Classic for PvP, it's definitely worth it. Definitely worth it. And I hope in the future, BfA or retail will learn from its mistakes in terms of character progression, in terms of maybe social interaction, and try to recreate the Classic in the retail. And I feel it could become a much better game. Guys, let me know how you feel about this. I know this was quite a long video. I would love to hear your opinions. Thank you, and I'll see you in my next guide.